Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've done a bunch of stories about the surveillance cameras that are popping up everywhere, including the Flock cameras. Flock is the name of the company that runs those cameras. And Seth sent me notes. Steve, check out the story from the Associated Press. License plate camera company halts cooperation with federal agencies among investigation concerns. John O'Connor wrote this to the Associated Press. And here's the deal. The company that does this cuts a deal with a local municipality and says, you pay us, we'll put these cameras in. We gather all this data with our cameras. The question then becomes, this private company that will share that information with who's hired them, what if they start sharing the information with someone else? Is that a concern? I mean, I find the cameras concerning in the first place. But the question is, what else can they do with that stuff? The photos those cameras take. So one of the nation's leading operators of automated license plate reading systems announced recently it's paused the operations with federal agencies because of confusion and concern about the purpose of investigations. And this story here is out of Illinois. And Illinois is just one place that was raising concerns. Flock Safety, whose cameras are mounted in more than 4,000 communities now, put a hold last week on pilot programs with the Department of Homeland Security's Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security Investigations. It's according to a statement from the founder of the company and its CEO. Among officials in other jurisdictions, Illinois Secretary of State raised concerns. He announced Monday that an audit found that CBP had accessed data in Illinois, although it's unclear what they were doing with that information. He said the sharing of license plate data of motorists who drive on Illinois roads is a clear violation of state law. This law, he's talking about a law they actually have in the books, passed 2 years ago, aimed to strengthen how data is shared and prevent this exact thing from happening. So Flock's safety cameras capture billions of photos of license plates each month. However, it doesn't own that data. The local agencies in whose jurisdictions the cameras are located own it, and they're the ones who receive inquiries from other law enforcement agencies. The company had initiated a pilot program with Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security to help a variety of things that they are working on. And so the person from Flock says, we clearly communicated poorly. We also didn't create distinct permissions and protocols in the Flock system to ensure local compliance for federal agency users. The revelation comes 2 months after the Secretary of State announced that police in the Chicago suburb of Mount Prospect had shared data with a Texas sheriff. So obviously Texas is a distance from Illinois. Now, the sheriff said he's simply trying to locate a missing woman, but there was some concerns about what was going on there, and that's when the Secretary of State demanded more information and vigilance from Flock Safety. So in addition to halting the pilot programs, Flock has tweaked its system so that federal inquiries are clearly identified as federal inquiries. And federal agencies will no longer be able to make blanket, national, or even statewide searches, but only one-on-one searches with particular police agencies. And so this is the kind of thing, you hear these arguments raised a lot where somebody goes, look at this little thing over here. I'm concerned about where that's headed. I'm concerned about that growing out of control. I'm concerned about where it's going. And you often hear people go, oh, that's a slippery slope argument. You're extrapolating out something that will never happen. And now we hear there's 4,000 communities with these cameras, and the cameras are shooting billions of pictures, and they're recording every single car that goes by, and not just the license plate, but a photo of the car, make, model, all that stuff, and what time it was there and which direction it was going. And that's all relatively intrusive stuff, but they go, well, we're doing it for everybody. If you go through this public intersection, that's not a problem. Next thing you know, some agency in D.C. can call up Flock, at least they used to be able to, and say, hey, can you tell us every single place that this particular person's car was spotted on this day, and they can click a few keys and kick that information out. Say, oh, the car was here, then it was here, then it was here, then it was here. Then it was here, 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 and here. That's a lot of information about you. And what are they doing with the information? And who's asking for it? So the interesting thing is that I've mentioned recently in other videos that companies that do business nationwide or internationally have got to stop and think and realize that, oh, by the way, laws vary, V-A-R-Y, vary wildly from state to state and from country to country. And so you'll hear about a story where, like, Facebook or Google or somebody is operating worldwide, and some wacky little country has got some wacky little law that doesn't exist in the U.S., and a big multinational corporation just ran afoul of it. And that can also happen in America. So you have this company, it's doing business, and lo and behold, California or Illinois has got their own law on this. And it turns out there's a specific law in Illinois that says that if you're gathering this kind of data, here's who you can and cannot share it with. And so this is this issue creeping forward, creeping. And now, like I said, 4,000 communities across America have got these cameras, and they are taking billions of photographs. But it's not just photographs, it's the data that accompanies the photographs. So there's a good chance, if you live in one of these communities, all they got to do, like I said, tap a few keys, click a few buttons, and they can see every place you went recently. And I find that kind of creepy, kind of Big Brother-ish, Orwellian, as they would say, Kafka-esque maybe. But unfortunately, this is where we are. And this to me is very, very scary. It's very scary. And I've seen stories where crimes were solved using flock cameras. And so they'll always point to that and go, but look, it did some good. But we've also seen some stories where flock cameras or facial recognition cameras, which I understand are different, have misidentified somebody and done some wrong. So these things aren't foolproof, okay? But my bigger concern is it's getting to the point where there's going to be so much of this kind of surveillance. We'll be living in a surveillance state. And hey, but you'll be safe. And of course, that's just what Big Brother said. You'll be safe. You'll be safe. So I like to see Illinois pushing back. I hope other states do as well. If a community is going to put in these readers and pay for them, I hope that the people in the community will be paying attention to that and possibly, if they don't like it, push back against it. Because remember, these things are being put in place by elected officials. And so in an election coming up, you could say, hey, let's run on a platform of getting these cameras out of our neighborhood. That's something that could happen. So we'll watch and see. Seth, thanks for sending that. It's a tongue twister. From the Associated Press. License plate camera company, Flock, halts cooperation with federal agencies among investigation concerns. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law.
Too many clicks spoil the browse.